Hi, my name is Todd Bigelow. I'm a freelance photographer based in Los Angeles for the last 30 years, working primarily with editorial, corporate, and nonprofit clients. I'm also an adjunct professor of photography and photojournalism and a soon-to-be author on a book on freelance business practices. This is 2 Minutes with Todd, a short video series where I address business practices for freelancers. Hope you enjoy. Today I want to talk briefly about 5 fundamental aspects of U.S. copyright law. Okay, copyright law, I'm not an attorney, but I have registered images for quite some time. I've been a freelancer for 30 years, so I understand what I need to know about U.S. copyright law, and I'm just going to touch on 5 very basic factors, which I get a lot of questions about. Okay, so first and foremost is, when is copyright initiated and who owns it? Okay, so here's how I want you to think about it for the most basic, simple thing. When you click the shutter, the image is copyrighted, okay? The actual terminology is more along the lines of when it's created into a fixed, viewable, tangible form, okay? But when you click the shutter, that image is copyrighted. Who owns that image? Well, if you're a freelancer and you have not signed away your rights in a work for hire agreement, or in any other capacity, literally signed away the copyright, then you own it as a freelancer, okay? If you are a staff employee, then your employer will own it. Or if you sign away that copyright in a work for hire agreement, then you will not own that copyright either, even though it was created when you click the shutter. Second question, how long does copyright last? Okay, there's been a lot of changes to the law, but basically all you need to know again is after January 1st, 1978, the life of copyright is the life of the author plus 70 years. Okay, so as long as you're alive, it's copyrighted, you own the image, and then upon your demise, upon your death, it's 70 years beyond that. After that, it goes into public domain, okay? The third topic that I want to discuss, most basic fundamental aspects of copyright law. There's different levels of protection that you can get from the U.S. copyright law. Okay, first is if you do not register your images with the U.S. Copyright Office, they are unregistered images, you will receive still basic protection because when you click the shutter and create that image, it's still copyrighted. But if it's not registered, you get the basic protection, which is you can pursue an infringing party and try to recover actual damages, which is essentially what you would have licensed it for. And if you're able to prove that they profited from it, which isn't always easy, you can go after those profits, okay? The second level is if you do register your images and upload them to the United States Copyright Office and it's done properly, you receive the maximum protection of the U.S. copyright law, which allows you to pursue statutory damages instead of actual damages, and even recover attorney fees if you go through an infringement lawsuit, you sue somebody for unauthorized use and so forth. Most often, infringing situations result in settlements, and even the settlements will be influenced by the fact that if it was a registered image and it was done properly and prior to the infringement, then except if it's within the 90-day window, which I don't want to go into, but those of you who understand know what I'm talking about. If it's registered timely and you go after an infringing party, even without going into a jury, into a trial, you'll probably be able to recover a higher fee due to the fact that it's been registered, okay? Because the infringing party understands that there's much more at stake with statutory damages, which can be awarded at a much higher level than actual damages. Okay, so that's that third aspect I want you guys to keep in mind that's very important, that there's different levels. Unregistered and registered images receive different levels of protection. I highly recommend you register your images. If you do register your images, that leads us to the fourth basic fact I want to mention today, which is you cannot register images that have been published and those that are unpublished together in one registration. They must be separated. You will have to determine what is published and what is unpublished. Sometimes it's very easy if they've been published in a publication online or in print or in a brochure or an advertisement, anything like that. Obviously, they're published. But if they're maybe just uploaded to your website, are those published or unpublished? Okay, you'll have to make that determination. The U.S. Copyright Office will not do that for you, and you will have to select that from a drop-down box when you register your images. However, you cannot register published and unpublished in one registration. Okay, so if you do a shoot and some of those images are published right away and some of them are unpublished and you want to register the whole thing, you'll actually have to divvy those up and do 2 separate registrations. The last point is, okay, so when are your images considered registered? Let me put it that way. This has changed in the last couple of years. It used to be that photographers would interpret the law to mean that they were registered once you uploaded them to the U.S. Copyright Office. You received acknowledgement that the application was received, the images were received, and so forth. I would hold on to those emails or they go into a folder, and that's what I would consider the registration date for my images. That's not the case anymore. Okay, now there is a decision date that is listed on your certificate. So when you upload them to the U.S. Copyright Office during the application process, they receive them. Now they will review, and once it's determined that everything has been done properly and they accept the registration, they will list the decision date on your certificate when they send it to you. Okay, that is the date that is considered the registration date for your images. And you need to know that registration date because if you ever have to pursue an unauthorized use and you're dealing with a lawyer or anything along that lines, they're going to ask when were the images registered. The decision date listed is the date that you will use. Okay, so there's 5 basic fundamental factors of the U.S. copyright law I want you to keep in mind. There's a lot of research you can do on U.S. copyright on your own. You can go onto the government website, read up on everything you need to, but keep those 5 things in mind going forward. And by all means, register and protect your work against unauthorized use. Okay? Take care. Have a good week. We'll see you next week.